You think you deserve that money? The trust belongs to Tiffany now." The sentence didn't just arrive. It cut through the quiet of my hotel room like broken glass. I braced a hand on the faux wood desk, steadying the tremor in my chest, while my stepmother, Janet, savored every word over the phone. She was gloating, telling me she'd moved the trust my mother left for me. "I'm Gabriella Mitchell, 28, perpetual airport regular thanks to a pharmaceutical sales job that keeps me racing from city to city. Tonight should have been a routine prep night in Minneapolis. Client slides, room service salad, early lights out. Instead, I was listening to the woman who married my father 2 years after Mom died, congratulating herself for siphoning the last piece of security my mother built from nothing. "Thanks for the update," I said evenly, keeping my voice as flat as a calm sea. Silence answered me, a tiny crack in Janet's show of confidence. She'd expected pleading, tears, maybe rage. Quiet felt like a door she couldn't wedge open. "That's all you have to say?" she pushed, voice bright with disappointment. "Tiffany needs that money for her wedding and a house. You'll just waste it on your sales trips." Behind my ribs, anger rose, slow, deliberate, controlled. I pictured my mother at her office window, sleeves rolled, eyes sure, the woman who built a consulting firm out of grit and caffeine. The trust wasn't a handout. It was her final strategy, my runway to take risks she never had time for. "Anything else?" I asked, level as a metronome. Janet's breath hitched. What she didn't know, what she never considered, was that 6 months ago, Mom's attorney, Mr. Harrison, called me about unusual inquiries on the account. We'd quietly fortified the trust with additional protections, tripwires really, that would log any unauthorized attempt and freeze movement. We didn't lock the doors. We wired the hallway and pointed the cameras at them. "You've always been such a disappointment," Janet snapped, going for the bruise. "Your stepsister deserves this more than you ever did." Click. I stared at the city lights stenciling the hotel window. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From focus. Every email she'd sent, every snide call to the bank, every whisper to my father, documented. If she finally lunged, the paper trail would hold. Grief has a way of softening your edges. Janet learned to shape mine. After Mom died when I was 16, Dad remarried fast. Loneliness disguised as a second chance. Janet came with Tiffany, 13, and suddenly the sun everything orbited. "We're all family now." Janet would coo while nudging me further from the center. Birthday parties that became Tiffany showcases. Report cards of mine met with polite nods while Tiffany's participation ribbons earned catered dinners. Dad worked longer hours. Janet curated what he saw. The spell cracked at my college graduation. Top of my class, job offer in hand. Dad missed the ceremony. Tiffany had a cold. "She needs her father," Janet said sweetly. Right then, I learned the difference between belonging and being tolerated. I moved out the next morning. I built a life. And I left the trust untouched. Not because I didn't need it, but because crossing that wire meant stepping into Janet's line of fire. 6 months ago, Mr. Harrison called. "She's circling." We installed the safeguards, waited. Now she'd bitten, I pulled my mother's photo from my wallet, the one where she's laughing with her chin tilted, up like the future couldn't possibly say no. "I've got it," I whispered to the smiling paper version of her. "I'm ready." I dialed Mr. Harrison. He answered on the second ring, voice warm with the kind of steady that makes your shoulders lower an inch. "She tried," I said, keeping it clinical. "Claims she transferred everything to Tiffany." "I got the flag this morning," he replied. Every attempt was blocked and logged, timestamps, IPs, call recordings. "The funds are intact." The breath I'd been rationing finally left me, so nothing moved, not a cent, and we have rock-solid evidence of attempted fraud. "Do you want me to proceed?" My jaw unclenched. 12 years of snide remarks and precision gaslighting lined up in my mind like dominoes. Janet built her confidence on the assumption I would always be one step behind. "Proceed," I said. "Send the packet to the family lawyer and CC my father. I want him to read it from a neutral desk." He paused. "Your mother said you were always 3 moves ahead." She was right. After the call, I opened my laptop and moved my flight. The presentation could wait. This couldn't. I packed with deliberate calm, laptop, blazer, the photo. I wasn't going home to be talked over in my father's living room. I was going to present evidence. To end this, cleanly, legally, finally. At the door, I glanced back at the quiet room, the neat bed, the lined-up notepads. My heart had stopped racing. The plan was simple. The truth was loud. And the next step would happen across a coffee table I'd avoided for years. But if you're hooked so far, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. And if you're feeling that slow burn of justice with me, tap like. It really helps the channel. Question for you. If you were in my shoes tonight, would you confront first, or let the lawyers speak? Comment below what you would have done. The crisp Boston air met me as I stepped out of the cab, suitcase in hand. Dad's house, our house, looked unchanged. Same paint, same porch light flickering. But I was different now. I wasn't the silent girl Janet had bullied into the corners of every room. I was here with proof, and this time, the walls would hear me. I'd told Dad I was coming, but I'd left out why. Some conversations needed 4 eyes, not filtered through Janet's edits. As I walked in, I found the 3 of them together, Dad in his armchair, Tiffany scrolling on her phone, and Janet perched like a queen on the couch. "Gabriella," Dad said, surprised. "I didn't expect you until later. Everything okay?" I smiled politely, sliding my phone from my bag. "Actually, Dad, we need to talk." I opened the file Mr. Harrison had sent. A thick packet of evidence, every forged attempt, every fake signature, every recorded call, Janet's fingerprints on all of it. "Janet called me yesterday," I said, voice steady. "Told me she'd emptied the trust fund into Tiffany's name. I thought you should see what really happened." The color drained from Janet's face, that smug mask she wore splintering. "I was just trying to help Tiffany." "Don't." My voice cut sharper than I expected. Every forged attempt was logged. Every lie, every manipulation. It's all here. Dad's hands trembled as he read the first page, his eyes darkening with each line. "Janet, what did you do?" "She's lying," Tiffany blurted, her cheeks blazing red. "She's always been jealous of me." Wordlessly, I pulled out another document, the untouched trust fund statement. "The money's still there, safe. The only thing exposed was Janet's scheme." Janet snapped then, voice high, sharp. "You set me up." "No." I stepped closer, calm as a blade. "I protected what was mine. Exactly the way Mom taught me." For the first time, silence pressed against every wall of that house. Dad's lips moved, but his voice barely rose above a whisper. "You forged my signature. You lied to the bank. You—" He stopped, eyes glassed with betrayal, the kind I hadn't seen since we buried Mom. I laid the documents in his lap. "It's all there." Mr. Harrison arranged the timeline. Years of manipulation. Yesterday's attempt was just the latest. Tiffany rose, voice cracking. "Mom was only trying to make things fair. You've always had everything." "Everything?" My laugh was humorless. "I worked through college. Built my career without touching that fund. The trust wasn't a gift. It was Mom's legacy. And Janet couldn't stand that she didn't control it." Janet's composure shattered. "You ungrateful little—" "I've already filed charges." I cut her off cold. "The bank's fraud department has the evidence. Mr. Harrison is handling it." I turned to Dad, softer now. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this, but you needed to know." Dad stood, his frame shaking, but his voice iron. "Janet, I want you out. Tonight." Her shriek cracked the air. "You can't be serious. After what you've done?" "Serious is all I can be." He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw the man who once believed in me, who Mom trusted to raise me. Tiffany wept quietly, maybe realizing for the first time that this wasn't a game of favorites anymore. This was criminal. This was the moment everything shifted. Janet hissed, pointing at me like a curse. "You planned this. You waited for me to slip." "No, Janet," I said, my voice quiet but final. "You planned this. I just made sure I was ready." The balance of power had flipped, and for the first time in over a decade, I wasn't the cornered girl. I was the one holding the light. Soft pause. If this twist has you hooked, make sure you hit like. It tells me you want more stories like this. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Question for you. Do you think Tiffany was truly innocent? Or just playing along with her mother? Comment your thoughts below. Janet's shrill protests echoed through the living room as Dad's voice cut like a gavel. Get out. Both of you, tonight, she sputtered, pointing at me with venom. After everything I've done for this family? But Dad's reply was quiet and devastating. What you did was betray us. You tried to steal from my daughter. You forged my name. You lied to me for years. His hands shook as he lowered the evidence packet. I won't let you do it again. For once, Tiffany's tears didn't look staged. Her face crumpled, eyes wide with the weight of truth she could no longer dodge. Maybe she hadn't known every detail, but she'd lived off Janet's schemes. Sheltered in the glow of favoritism while I was shoved into the shadows, the police would want to speak with Janet. Mr. Harrison had already filed the fraud reports. The bank had their trail, timestamp by timestamp. Janet thought she was clever, but she had left a digital footprint louder than any confession. You planned this, she spat at me, voice shaking. No, I said simply. I protected myself. Mom taught me to always be ready. The silence that followed was suffocating. Dad stared at Janet like he was finally seeing her without the mask. Just a desperate woman cornered by her own greed. He sank back into his chair, grief heavy in his eyes. Pack your things, he said at last. This marriage is over. The weeks that followed blurred with lawyers, hearings, and long conversations at the kitchen table Dad and I had avoided for years. Janet faced charges of attempted fraud and financial exploitation. She avoided prison with a plea deal but walked away disgraced, barred from handling finances ever again. Tiffany, stripped of her mother's scaffolding, emailed me weeks later. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Mom made me believe you had everything handed to you, but now I see she was jealous of what your mom built. I didn't know if I believed her, but for the first time, I understood she was grappling with her own betrayal. With Mr. Harrison's help, I used the trust fund exactly as Mom intended, seed money for my own consulting firm. Late nights and steady grit turned it into something real, something thriving, just like Mom once built. Dad became my quiet partner, dropping by my office for lunch, sometimes telling stories of Mom he'd kept buried, their first conference together, nights spent dreaming of a company that didn't exist yet, the way she'd always been 3 steps ahead. One evening, we found an old journal in the attic. Tucked inside was a letter addressed to me, dated weeks before she passed. My dearest Gabriella, I'm leaving you more than money. I'm leaving you freedom. Don't let anyone dim your light. You're stronger than you know, smarter than they give you credit for. Trust yourself, I do. Love, Mom. I framed it and placed it on my office wall. Her voice, her faith in me echoing every day. Years later, standing beside Dad at Mom's grave with fresh flowers, he whispered, even while she was fighting for her life, she was fighting for yours too. I felt it then. What all the betrayal. The courtroom filings, the sleepless nights had led me to. Strength wasn't just in surviving Janet's schemes. It was in building something of my own, in proving that Mom's legacy couldn't be stolen or diminished. Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. She would be so proud of you, and so am I. And for the first time in years, I believed it. Soft close to camera. If this ending gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful revenge stories. Like this video if you believe justice always finds its way, and comment below. Would you have pressed charges against Janet, or let her walk away quietly? Justice wasn't loud this time. Justice was steady, and it was mine.